outside of Chicago. You'd really like to be in Chicago at a rate of $10, but we'll put you 200 miles outside of Chicago for a rate of $5.
Yeah.
And, maybe you'd like that, probably not. We don't like it either, but that's the best we can do because nobody else is entering this facility. Because the customers are changing too, and they're moving their operations and their focus closer to consumption as well. So there was always a handful of facilities, probably sometimes more than a handful of facilities that are just constantly underutilized. And if you could get them up to even 50% occupied, you'd be pretty happy with it. And those are, because Americold's got facilities, and any of the larger ones are, they've got facilities that are, 30, 40 years old. And the reason that they were built no longer exists.
And what do you see as sort of the optimal utilization level?
It depends. If you're talking about that Ocean Spray example, you could stack that up at 100% full, right? That would be fine. The more throughput you're doing, the more you need space to move. Probably if you're talking about a kind of endpoint distribution center, I don't think, my personal opinion is you're going to start seeing real problems with efficiencies and labor costs once you get, over 80%, 85%. We always allocated expenses across an assumption of 85% occupancy being ideal, but I think even that might have been a little high.
Got it.
Yeah, because if you remember when I said, if you're not doing good labor management, you're taking your eye off the ball, things can happen, and your handling margin all of a sudden goes negative. That happens when you're too full. And, for instance, now I have to put stuff out on the dock, and, we don't have enough space for this other shipment that's coming through, so I moved stuff I had off the dock, and now you're doing double moves of product, and things can get underwater pretty quick that way. So, yeah, you always want to give yourself space to move and do your operations cleanly and efficiently.
Yeah. Okay. That's helpful. Ben, do you have any other questions you want to ask Andrew?
Yeah, I do. And sorry that I joined late, so if you'd already touched on this, but just wondering generally how different product is to handle. I mean, you gave the example of, Preferred having a strong position in seafood. Is that just because of reputation, or is there something inherently different about storing, seafood, for example, versus poultry or, whatever it might be?
I think it's mostly reputation, and it's a focus, right?
Right.
A seafood customer at Preferred is the customer, Maricold could probably do that. They got buildings and they get cold and they can move the product in and out.
Right.
There's always a few different things maybe. But I find that, listen, I mean, there's vast differences across product, to just answer your first question, how you would handle. I mean, for instance, poultry, we had plants where, chicken came in raw. We'd have to blast freeze it, inspect it, store it, case pick it, pull it out. And then we had other product like that Ocean Spray. It just comes in as a big pallet and it goes out as a pallet of product
right.
at some point in time. And you've got one kind of product. It's called cranberries. That's a pretty easy operation, but I don't think that there's one customer who can handle stuff that other customers can't, except for the point where you're talking about product-specific capital investments. And so the easiest example for that is what I was talking about with poultry. Like if it has to be blast frozen, blast freezers cost a lot of money. So blast freezing just means it's a really cold box, a really cold room where they push a lot of air over it to freeze the product quickly, right? That's all blast freezing is. Well, if I don't have blast freezers in my facility, then I can't do your business.
Sure, sure.
But it's not like I can't spend the money to build them. It's just I might not have them right now, and you might not want me to spend the money on it because I'm going to make you pay for that investment at the end of the day. So there are some things like that, but there's nothing that there's no food product that Americold can't do. Now, from a cold storage standpoint, once you get out of food and start talking pharmaceuticals or flowers, those are radically different things, right? So I don't think any of these guys that we've talked about do any of that work. Or if they do, it's very, 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 very little. Because pharmaceuticals has all the regulations and all that kind of stuff.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. That's all I had.